Okay, so today on our outdoor adventuring basics, we're going to try to do a little clam and oyster uh, harvesting, or at least get you ready to be able to do that. So some of the basic things that you're going to need, or you need to understand, is the first thing you want to do is have either a tide book yourself, or be able to go to the internet and say, hey, I'm going to Hood Canal. What are the tide, when's low tide at Hood Canal, and how low is it? And basically, if you're digging clams and oysters, uh, or shucking oysters, you can do most of it at plus uh, 2 foot tide. But the lower the tide, I mean, if you get down to 0 or -1 or -2, it exposes a lot more beach and gives you more opportunity to get at areas that haven't been dug at all in recently. But there's so many shellfish out there. +2, you should be able to come home with limits. So limits, you do need a license. The cost of a shellfish license is about $17.40, or you get senior discounts, or if you're 14 or under, you don't need a license. You can you can harvest if the kids are helping to dig or shuck oysters, etc. Their limits are free basically. The limits are, if you're taking oysters, you can get 18 oysters per person. If you're getting clams, you can get 40 clams per person. The clam needs to be about 1.5 inches. This particular one is about 2.5 inches. So it's a little bigger, than it needs to be, but it gives you an idea of how much meat is in a typical clam. And while you're there, you're also going to run into mussels, and this is a good size mussel. I mean, you'll get plenty of meat out of a mussel this size. And they grow right on the oyster shells a lot of time, or just they're laying on the beach. Sometimes I'll see them growing on trees. So and I just take and grab the ones that I can literally peel off a whole row of mussels, and in 2 minutes have my 10-pound limit of mussels that I want to have. I could tell you stories on how this starfish eat mussels, but that's another time. So the other basic thing that I want you to know, of course you're going to need your license, but you also might need a parking pass, basically, and again, Discover Pass. That's one of your real basics if you're doing very much outdoors at all. These cost, I think, either $30 or $35, but basically they support state parks. It's really a good investment to have, to own one of these things. So if you're out oystering, a couple of quick tips that I used to, when I'm digging oysters, hold the oyster in my hand and try digging them, trying to pry them apart using an oyster knife like this. Now, there's two different kinds of oyster knife. The ones that have the solid plastic, you might pay $3 or $4 more for than the wood handle ones, but they will last you a lifetime. I mean, they are a good investment. Always look for this kind of thing. They're probably $15, something like that. And then when you see an oyster, you have to leave the shells on the beach. They have to be a minimum of 1.5 inches, across to be legal. And when you technically, you're not supposed to eat them on the beach, or if you eat them on the beach, you have to count them as your limit. So turn your back, to any camera that happens to be there, I guess, if you like raw oysters. But if you are, again, picking up an oyster, even though you're going to leave the shell, if you try doing this, which I did for a few years, carry lots of Band-Aids, because invariably this is going to slip and you're going to stab yourself. I mean, it hurts, to tell you the truth. So don't do that. I mean, just, what I do is literally, I step on the, I use my feet to hold the shell in place like this, and then take the oyster knife and get it started. Jab it in, get it started, and then you can lift it up if you want to wiggle it around a little bit and pry the shell apart and get it. So you'll save a lot of pain and suffering if you do it that way. But carry, just in case you slip up, carry some Band-Aids in your wallet. That's your mini first aid kit. The other thing that you carry in your wallet, if you don't know how long an inch and a half is, a dollar bill is 6 inches. You fold it in half, that's 3 inches. You fold it in half again, that's an inch and a half. Here, you've brought a ruler in your, what's in your wallet? You got a ruler, you got a first aid kit right there. So the oysters, the mussels, 10 pounds of this, 40 clams is you're allowed 40 clams, or if you get any of those, the really big horse clams, that can be 2 pounds a piece, or gooey ducks or something like that. There's a poundage limit on that. Refer to the Fish and Wildlife webpage to get the specifics if you're going after the big ones. Sometimes I'll do that. They're a little tougher. You want to clean them a little bit better, and then I usually take and grind them up, use one of those meat grinders and grind them up and mix them with some celery and carrot and make a what they call a clam fritter out of them, and just fry them as a patty, like you would a hamburger patty in the fry pan. It tastes great. Just use it. Have some different sauces that you can put on it that you would use on on your fish, etc. So anyway, it is a kick out there. If you in digging the clams, you don't need big shovels, etc. Most of the time they're near the surface. You can use just a little hand rake like this, or I use one of the garden spades. I can't looking around for where I have my spade, but basically to lift up a lot of soil at the same time, that spade will uncover enough clams in probably 20 minutes that in most good beaches you'll get all you want in about 20 minutes, your 40 clam limit. Or just other garden tools, just those little garden spades, that's good enough to get all you need is your limit on the thing. So you don't need to spend a fortune on your thing. What you do need, however, you should have boots. Boots that come up to calf high are just fine. Because you're walking across some muddy areas. Sometimes you might trip or sit down, so have an extra change of clothes with you. Carry a bucket, to put your clams in. I usually carry, for my oysters, I usually carry a little plastic container like this and shuck them and put them in there. And this is plenty for 18 oysters. This is plenty big enough for 18 oysters right there. But anyway, in the course of an hour and a half, you can come back with 40 clams, 18 oysters, and maybe 10 pounds of mussels. And that's a pretty good feed, and you're going to be eating well for a day or two with that kind of thing. And it's, it's a good investment to just, $17.40. That's a year-round good time out on the ocean, Give it a try. What I do for beaches, that's another thing. Fish and Wildlife has a great website in terms of just, you identify the county that you think that you might want to be at. Jefferson County is where I typically go. You don't want to be in King County. There's too much pollution here. The clams just are not good around Seattle. You want to be on the other side, the Bremerton side of the sound. And then if you look at the Fish and Wildlife thing, they'll tell you, here's a beach over at Quilcene that has oysters and clams, but no mussels, or and it'll give you driving directions. It'll give you all the information that you want. They have a fabulous web page there, so check out their web page. I usually like to go to what they call Wolf Point Park, which is right next to the Hood Canal Bridge, and also Scheid Tidelands is right there, right next to the Hood Canal Bridge. There are some beaches are open year-round. Others that are shallow and the water gets a little too warm, they will close them during the summer months. So you want to check your beach in terms of, before your outing, go check on the web page and say, hey, Wolf Point, is it open? And usually the Department of Fish and Wildlife has been out there. They've checked for red tide or marine toxins, etc. And it'll give you the all clear. Go ahead and go get them and feel free to eat. Feel comfortable eating them. So with that in mind, have at it. That's your lesson for today.